Okay, so the session is now being recorded. The recording is public record and will be posted on our LCB website, lcb.wa.gov, shortly after our meeting ends. Today's Listen and Learn forum is focused on conceptual draft rules, clarifying definitions related to the evaluation of the production or processing of cannabis products. My name is Robert Despain, Policy and Rules Coordinator for the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board. And while I get the presentation set up, I'd like to invite Justin Nordhorn, our Director of Policy and External Affairs, to provide some opening remarks, please.
There we go. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Justin Nordhorn, Director of Policy and External Affairs for the Liquor and Cannabis Board. And today what you're seeing is a presentation on clarifying definitions, as you've heard. I wanted to give a little bit of background for this particular area. So if you remember from last year, we had an agency request bill that was heavily constructed with a lot of definitions. And as we went through session, there was a lot of confusion around a number of different points, including, some of the other definitions, which you're not going to see in today's package. But as we were talking to industry members, there's a lot of different conversations and utilization of different terms and terminology that could use an opportunity to clarify and create some consistency. So what we did is we're putting together a package for your feedback today to let us know what you think on some of these areas. And not everything that we had in last year's bill can be covered through rules. We just don't have that the authority for rulemaking in those particular areas. And so this is a very scaled back version of some of those concepts. And I just wanted to introduce that as kind of the foundational piece. And so we really would appreciate your feedback on will these work? Do they not work? Is it better left towards legislative proposals, or is this something that folks are interested in? So with that, again, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today and providing your feedback. Robert's going to cover some of the dynamics and ground rules for today's session. So once again, thank you all for attending.
Thanks for that, Justin. So let's go ahead and get started. So our overall meeting goal today is to engage with our industry partners and other interested persons to review conceptual draft rules related to clarifying definitions as found in 314.55.560. So we want to gather your feedback on these rules in a structured fashion, and finally, we'll go over our next steps. So why are we here? Well, the LCB is considering creating new, amending, or repealing existing rule sections as necessary to identify and further clarify terms related to the production and/or processing of cannabis products. So these activities may involve the use of potentially harmful products, and as such, rules are needed to clarify terms in order to mitigate safety concerns by regulating the use of these products that pose or may pose a risk to public health and youth access. The LCB is currently in the CR 101 inquiry phase of the rulemaking process, and your feedback during today's forum will help inform and shape these rules going forward. So how will the feedback and data offered today help inform and shape these rules going forward? Well, your comments, your thoughts, and suggestions will be combined into a document that will be analyzed and organized by theme. This document will then be presented to the board for review and discussion and will be published on the LCB website at a later date. So I want to take a moment to go over the meeting protocol and participant roles. I will be the facilitator for today's meeting. Assisting me in the meeting are fellow policy and rules coordinators Jeff Kildall and Audrey Vasic. Thank you, Audrey and Jeff. Additional LCB staff from various divisions are also in attendance and have graciously made themselves available should their expertise be needed to help answer any questions or comments you might have. And the participants, that's all of you who are in attendance. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out to be here. We'll be using the hand raise feature as we go through the meeting. Once you raise your hand, you will be acknowledged and unmuted and be given the opportunity to provide your feedback. For this forum, the chat function is disabled. If you would like to provide written thoughts or comments, please send these to rules@lcb.wa.gov. We will be monitoring that throughout this forum. So again, if you would prefer to present your thoughts and comments in written form rather than speaking, you're more than welcome to do that. Again, it's rules@lcb.wa.gov. So some of the participation expectations for today, stay on topic, please. The topic for this forum is the conceptual draft rules on clarifying terms related to the evaluation of materials used in the production and or processing of cannabis products. This is the only topic that will be discussed today. If you have other topics you wish to discuss, please feel free to reach out to us via email or phone, and we can schedule time with you outside of this meeting. But for now, that's outside of the scope. This is a forum to share ideas and solutions. We're hoping to hear from a diverse array of perspectives around this forum topic, but the purpose behind that is not necessarily to start a debate. Rather, by listening in a thoughtful way to other points of view and participating with an intent to learn, maybe we can all land on the best path forward with this particular rule project. When you're called on, please remember to identify yourself. That'll help us tremendously when we need to create the comments table and when we need to respond at a later date to any feedback that is not specifically addressed during this meeting. Everyone that wishes to provide feedback will be able to participate. And lastly, please remember that this is a public recording forum and it is being recorded. So anything shared could also become public record. So I will introduce the topic as outlined in the agenda, and we'll try to call on participants based on your virtual hand raising order. When you're called on, please be prepared to offer what you like, what you don't like, and if possible, any alternative language for each rule section. Alternative language to the existing conceptual draft rules is strongly encouraged, and it doesn't have to be technical, legalistic. It can come in any form you wish to provide. So very briefly, I know some of you in attendance have seen this before. So very briefly, we're just going to go over the basic rulemaking process as described in the Administrative Procedures Act. There's 3 stages. We're currently in stage 1. And if we look at the basic rulemaking process as a flowchart, we're currently in the yellow circle area. And so our next step would be to go to the CR 102 rule proposal. So the feedback we received today will help determine our next steps and our path forward. Now, I know Justin mentioned this earlier, kind of the history of this rule project, but I just wanted to provide it as a slide so you get a sense of how long we've been working on this and how this came about. In addition to the events listed on the screen, since April 2022, our agency has engaged in 5 internal conceptual draft rule meetings and 3 public deliberative dialogue sessions concerning the evaluation of THC compounds. And I'm going through these a little faster, but again, this Presentation materials and all other materials, including the agenda and the conceptual draft rules, are also available on our website. And so today we're in the blue section. And following this, we'll review the public feedback, determine whether to revise the conceptual draft rules and or file a Sierra 102 rule proposal. So now that we've reviewed the steps in the rulemaking process and a brief history of this rule project, let's begin looking at the conceptual draft rules. Okay, the first section of the Washington Administrative Code that we will review is amended proposed section WAC 314 55 560. The title and subsection 1, the purpose and scope. Now we're just allotting 5 minutes for feedback with this, and it's what you like, what you don't like, and any suggested language revisions. And when speaking, if possible, please include your name and affiliation. Hold on while I pull it up. So I've gone ahead and highlighted both the title and subsection 1, and that's the focus of this section. We'll go ahead and give it just a couple minutes. If no one has any thoughts, comments, or feedback, we'll go ahead and move on to the next subsection. I think I just saw him.
One hand, Robert. I'll elevate Micah up to presenter.
Thank you, Audrey.
Hi there, thanks. I actually just have a like a clarifying question. The addition of or concentrates in the two places it's in here. I guess can I just kind of get an explanation of how you're imagining concentrates are being used in the. I guess I'm just not clear exactly why that needed to be added, and I kind of want to understand where it was coming from.
Okay, so your comment on this particular section is there seems to be some ambiguity, or it's not clear why the or concentrates was added to this, to both the title and this section. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any suggestions for revisions? Is it just removing it entirely, or is there anything else that you?
No. I'm not making any sort of suggestion about it. I'm just trying to get some understanding about how that might be implemented or used, or just to sort of get some understanding, because I don't even feel like I get what that means well enough to say whether I think that it should or shouldn't be included. So I was just trying to get some clarity on that, and that may not be something you can answer here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, part of the CR 101 phase and the conceptual draft rule phase is really just exploring what we include in the conceptual draft rules. And so I think your feedback in saying it seems ambiguous, you're not sure why it was added, it's vague, I think is really helpful, Micah. I think beyond that, that might be out of scope to go through it. We can always follow up, though, if you have additional questions about why it was added. But I think for now, just capturing your thoughts, it's there seems to be some maybe ambiguity about that particular word choice. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess to clarify a little bit further, I just feel like it seems to me like because we make concentrates within the 502 system, that their use in cannabis products is already within the scope sort of inherently. So I guess I'm wondering, is that like concentrates that weren't made within the 502 system? And that feels like, and you're trying to allow for the ability to regulate those external concentrates, or because then I'm like, I don't really know what those are because I've never heard of that being used, and I'd be curious if maybe there's something that's being used that I'm not aware of, or just because that's what it says to me is that, like, I think of concentrates as something that we make within the regulated market, therefore they're already in your scope to make rules about and policy about. So what are we trying to get at by including it here in this kind of additives section, if that makes sense?
No, okay, that's really good. That's really helpful. Mike, and we're capturing all your comments about that right now. Let me open it up if anyone from specific divisions has any thoughts on that. If not, it might just be good capturing, Micah, what you said, and then I think we'll be able to take that back along with the other comments and thoughts in this session and really analyze it and make sure we are clear with what we're trying to do in the conceptual draft rules. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Audrey, can I check? Is there anyone that wanted to comment from any of the divisions about the addition of that, or should we just move on to the next hand raised?
It's like the only hand at this point is from one of our attendees, Breeze Trees. I'm not seeing any LCB staff.
Okay.
There.
Okay,
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Audrey.
okay, I'll elevate Breeze up to presenter.
Thank you.
One moment. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, I've unmuted. Check 1, 2, 3.
We can hear you.
Okay. Hi, this is Mark Ambler with Free Street. Micah, I think I'll just state what I assume the government is thinking by making this change is that they want to regulate terpenes and CBD additives in addition to just solvents and stuff like that. And that's my interpretation of the government intent, or the intent of the people that brought this to the government. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you for that. And it was Mark. Thank you, Mark. Audrey, do we have any more hands raised for this section?
No, there are no other hands currently raised.
Okay.
Although, Mark, it looks like your hand is still up. Did you have further comment, or is that a holdover hand?
Oh, okay. Let me turn to Jeff real quick. Jeff, have we received any emails yet in the rules inbox?
Hi, Robert. So far, there is nothing in the rules inbox.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the next section. Okay, this next section is the contains the most amendments, the most changes. This is the WAC 314.55.560 sub 2. And so 15 minutes have been allotted for feedback on this section. Bear with me while I highlight it and pull it up. Okay. So subsection 2 concerns the highlighted part. If anybody wishes to make thoughts or comments, what you like, what you don't like about any of these particular revisions or additions, please feel free to raise your hand. And if anybody wants me to scroll down to the next page, I can also do that. Excuse me. Audrey, do we have any hands for this section?
There are no hands currently raised.
Okay, so we'll give it maybe a few more minutes just to make sure, and then we'll move on to subsection 3. And just for clarity sake, I did highlight everything, but in this particular instance, so there are 3 major additions in the definition section. One is catalyst, which is sub B, extract, and extraction. Beyond that, there were some technical changes. Let's give it maybe another
Hey, Robert.
minute. Yes, Justin.
If you can check, I don't see this on my system. So we just received an email indicating that there's a number of folks in a waiting room, but I don't see the waiting room that we had before here. So I don't know if anybody else sees that, but there's an indication that there's a number of folks in the waiting room waiting to come into the meeting.
Now I'm checking. I don't see anybody waiting for this either, Justin.
Hi, Robert, this is Audrey. Yeah, I'm not
Hi.
seeing a waiting room, but Justin, if you forward me that email, maybe I can reach out to those folks and get them the new link. Maybe they have an incorrect link to the meeting.
Okay, yeah, that could be it. Thank you, Audrey. Thanks,
Perfect.
Justin. So let's just take a pause. Actually, we have a hand up now.
Okay, yes, I'll elevate Annie up to presenter. Okay, you should have the ability to unmute yourself. Annie.
Hi, this is Annie, and I just noticed a spelling error in sub D. Extract means a solid viscid or liquid substance. Pretty sure it's supposed to be viscous.
I'll make a note of that. Thank you, Annie. I mean, I think that was intentional, viscid, but
Oh.
I'll make a note of that, and I'll double check it to make sure that the intention was viscid and it wasn't an error. But you're saying it should be viscous.
As far as I know, I didn't realize viscid is a word.
Now, again, I'm going to double check. No, I appreciate that because I know viscous as well. So let me put this down. Thank you for that. Just give it another minute. If there's an update on folks that said they were in a waiting room somewhere. Okay. And Annie, thank you for the check on viscous or viscid. I'm being advised that viscid is a word. I think we'll just need to look at the context and see whether viscous is the more appropriate word, or whether viscid still tracks with this particular term. But thank you for that. Thank you for your feedback. So Audrey, can I check with you real quick? Is there an update regarding folks in a waiting room?
So I've been contacting folks that are reaching out individually about how to join, but I don't have an update other than that.
Okay, so let's go ahead. If there aren't any other hands raised, I think we'll go ahead and move on to the next subsection. We still have some built-in time for feedback as well after that. So hopefully folks that are wanting to join and are otherwise unable to will be able to join before that. Thank you, Justin, for calling that out, and thanks, Audrey, for following up. So moving on to subsection 3. It's WAC 31455-560, sub 3 procedure. And we've only allotted 5 minutes for this one as well, mostly because there were just minor technical changes to this. Pull that up too. Okay. And so I've highlighted sub 3. And we've allotted 5 minutes for this. We're ahead of time. And so I'll give it a couple minutes to see if anybody has any comments or thoughts related to this subsection. If not, we'll move into the next section, which is general feedback. We'll go ahead and give it another minute, I think, for 2 reasons. One, just in case anybody's thinking through what they want to provide. Oh, I see another hand raised.
So Mark Ambler has his hand up again. So let me make him a presenter. And okay, Mark, you should be able to speak.
Okay, that's 1, 2, 3.
We can hear you. Thanks, Mark.
Okay. My only question, which I don't think the language spells it out, but who would be doing the verifying? Would that be the board for each of these, or who's the decision-making government entity that takes these case report data and confirms that they're verifiable? And each one of these, who makes the final decision? That's my only question. Thanks. I'll mute.
That's a good question. So no specific thoughts or comments related to this section, but the question is, I think the way it's worded, and someone please correct me, is unless any of the divisions want to speak to this subsection. I mean, Mark, I think it's plain language is, verifiable case report data, other local, state, and federal agency findings, reports, or product or substance subject of a recall. I think those are all relative to the board. And in this case, the board, we're referring to our board and the agency. If your question is more specific to what do we mean by verifiable, what do we mean by agency findings, I think that's... Did you want to follow up on that, Mark?
Yes, if I may.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, just the actual meat and carrots, like if somebody shows up with this case report data and presents it to LCB, say via email, then does it then attach to the next like board meeting? And how many of these do you anticipate to get? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, will it produce a backlog? Or is this anticipated just to be like once a year somebody calls something out? Just thinking through the, not only how it goes down, but the lag that it would produce for American cannabis. And just kind of getting a feel for what kind of lag barriers to entry that would add to this American cannabis that we're trying to establish. I appreciate
Right.
it. Thanks.
Thanks for that question, Mark. I think I will say that this particular subsection, a lot of this has already been enacted into rule, including the specific language about submitting verifiable case report data. I honestly, I think beyond just the plain language definition of that, I don't think there's any there hasn't been any additional meat and potatoes, I think you said, to these particular subs. We've had this particular part of WAC 314.55.560 effective as a rule since earlier this year. I think it was February 5th. And so to my knowledge, and if anybody else on call has other information, you know, please let me know. But to my knowledge, there hasn't been a backlog. I think it is just plain language verifiable case report data. However, I appreciate your comment and your question, which is in your mind, there could be some ambiguity as to what that means. So that's definitely something we'll have to look at and consider. You know, if we need to further define or add additional context around what sub 1, sub 2, sub 3 mean before moving on to the additional parts of the procedure. Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, I think some of the discussion behind some of this, and again, I think your comments are well taken, that there may need to be some more clarity, and we'll have to revisit some of that. But I believe that the kind of the center of this was around something similar to like the vitamin E acetate situation, where we have these emerging public health issues that we want to make sure that that we can put into rule and have those approved. So when you're looking at, who's going to be submitting the case reports, I would assume, and again, I don't want to put, we don't want rules where we assume. So we definitely will want to take a look at clarification, but we would be thinking about, Department of Health and public health entities, CDC perhaps, FDA perhaps, something like that may come out with, here's a hazardous, product that shouldn't be going into consumables and those types of things. So your points are well taken, and thank you for your comments.
Thanks, Justin, for following up with that too. Mark, I hope that provides some additional clarity around that. So if there aren't any other hands raised, we'll go ahead and move to the next part. And so we don't always do this, but in this case, I think it's important to get feedback from all of you, from those in attendance. And so for this particular section, we'd like some additional suggested revisions to the conceptual draft rules. So if you have any feedback that you'd like to add, we've allotted up to 10 minutes for this section. So let's see if we have any hands raised or any written comments that have been sent in. So I see a hand raised. Audrey is. Audrey, can you help elevate?
Yes, sorry. There's a bit of a
No,
delay
that's
on
okay.
my end. I apologize. Okay, Mark, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, check.
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, my one comment would be any place you have the authority written into this WAC that you can regulate, I would suggest regulate or approve. So somebody could submit a list of additives or concentrates or anything that they really want to, that has a set of proving that they're okay, that they're healthy, and then you can take that and publish it as an approved list, so people don't have to go through this process every single time for all concentrates and additives and solvents. And that's my comment. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Mark. Thank you for not just the thoughts, but also providing very, I think, specific language. So you just want to see the addition of, or approve, so that as so I think that's helpful. Thank you very much. Do we have any other hands, or Jeff, have we received any emails, any written comments or thoughts?
Hi, Robert. There's are no emails.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Audrey, let me circle back with you real quick. Has anyone that is unable to get in to the meeting followed up and is now in the meeting? Are they able to attend?
I think there's some folks with technical difficulties
Okay.
still getting in, unfortunately.
Okay.
Trying to
Well,
troubleshoot at the moment, but no resolution yet.
that's fine. Thanks, Audrey. I'll offer two things to folks either that have had trouble accessing this forum or otherwise had technical difficulties. This is being recorded. We're going to include it on our website. And even after this meeting is over, folks are more than welcome to contact us via email or phone with any additional feedback, thoughts, or comments. So even if through technical difficulties or otherwise you're unable to attend, if you are able to watch this at a later date, you're more than welcome to contact us, rules@lcb.wa.gov. Okay, any additional hands or thoughts? Okay, I'll just give it just another half minute because this is the last part. After this, we'll be wrapping up and going into next steps. Okay. Well, thank you all for attending today. And for those of you providing feedback, we really appreciate it. We'll take all of these comments and analyze them. And then we'll be taking them to the board to review and discuss. And some of your feedback could be incorporated into this next phase of the rule proposal process. The comments offered today are helpful in rule development. And although the comments here are not considered formal, we do include everything from our listen and learn forums in the CR 102 packages, so that anyone who reviews the rule package will get a full picture of the public involvement during our rule development phases. And here I'm just including some URL links as resources. Again, I've made this presentation available as a PDF on our website. So if you haven't already been able to access it or review it along with the other materials for the meeting, they're there. If you want to take a second and if you haven't already written down or captured these URL links as resources, they really are a good point of reference for not just this rule project, but others that the LCB is working on. And so again, we'll have the recording of this session posted to our website shortly, and we will also share the comments table that we put together incorporating your feedback you've all shared in this session. And with that, I just want to thank everyone for attending and taking time out of your busy afternoons to be here. We look forward to continuing to work with you on this and other rule projects. So with that, I'm going to close the session by including my contact information should you have any need for follow-up. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and end the meeting. Thank you, everyone.